Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I hope you are having an amazing, amazing December that is filled with surprise and delight. I have loved being on the lookout for my little December delights all month so far. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I just decided to be on the lookout for something that took my heart by surprise. And I've been putting them on Instagram every day, and it's been fun to hear what is delighting you. And although I've already posted today's delight, I would add to it. Oh my gosh, I love this podcast so much. I just am obsessed with these conversations with these amazing women that I'm meeting or having back on or are already my friends, and I'm learning so much more about them, like today's guests. And I love you. I love that you're listening. I love that you are so faithful in that. Thank you. And so gracious in the reviews that you're writing and the love notes that you send me and the episodes that you're sharing with your friends. It's all just an unbelievable gift and so much goodness. I can hardly stand it. And can you believe I'm at work right now? This is so fun. Oh my gosh. Okay. So many things happening. I know this time of year is busy and fun and full and festive, and I hope that you are swimming in delights. I hope you are giving yourself opportunities to rest. I hope you are doing what delights you and driving around and looking at Christmas lights or sitting next to your own tree and journaling or whatever just seems really fun and restful and intentional for you. If you're waiting for permission, here it is. If this time of year is just not conducive to rest, I have some very fun things coming up in January and February. I'm going to be hosting some farm stays that are really more like intentional immersion situations, just giving you a space to dream. You'll have 2 or 3 nights at the bed and breakfast. It will be all inclusive, your airport transfer, your meals, our festive beverages, so much time and space to identify what you're looking for in the new year, who you are becoming, and a roadmap on how to get there. I'm really excited to work with you. I am only doing 4 of these. They will be one-on-one for 3 days, and I'm really excited. So check your calendar, check your heart, and connect with me. There'll be a link down in the show notes, but just to be in charge of you, be in charge of how this year is going to play out. And let's get some water and sunshine on those big dreams of yours and give them some roots so they can grow and offer all the shade and beauty to you and everyone in your world. Speaking of intention, Speaking of presents, speaking of big dreams in her heart, oh my goodness, today's guest, we have part two of my conversation with Liz McHutcheon. If you listened last week, it was our pregame show prior to her trek, her 500-mile trek of walking the Camino. And she came back and shared just a few days after she had done that epic walk. And she is back to share her learnings, her experience, her helpful tips if there's anything you want to do, but really just evidence of the transformation. I'm so excited and delighted to share this conversation with Liz McHutcheon with you. Sweet Liz, our listeners have only had to wait 7 days for this conversation. We had to wait much longer. I'm so thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much.
Oh, Wendy, I am so excited to be here for part two of talking about the Camino. Yes, they're waiting 7 days. It's been many lifetimes since I saw you last on August 30th as we were heading to Paris.
Right? So 2 months for us in dog years or in podcasting years, that is only 7 days to wait. But of course, they'll be listening many months from the
Yes.
time of this recording. But all to say, time is in fact so relative. And although it's been 60 days, it's been 1,000 years. And you went on this epic journey. I went on a far poshier but epic journey of spending a month in France. And then the day well, before I even got home, the movie crew had already moved in and they started filming that next day. So I have been living out of a suitcase for 2 months and have only just gotten back in my house yesterday. So,
Wow.
right. And I can clearly say any without any hesitation, as I take so long to utter that sentence, I am not the same person moving back into this house that I was moving out. And that's just my normal level of expansion and trajectory and what happens to me in France and what happens to me when I just allow great things to come to me and roll with all that life is giving. But you purposefully, intentionally, with presence, like you do everything, went all in knowing you were going to be transformed in a truly significant way.
Mm,
And were you disappointed?
not at all.
Oh, no.
Well, what's funny is you're talking about moving back in your house, and it was same for me coming back after 6 weeks. Like, it's almost like I came back and started like sweeping anything that no longer served me.
100%.
I literally just a couple days ago, had this dream, very vivid dream, where I'm in this beautiful place. It's almost like Hawaii-like, but it wasn't Hawaii. And there were dolphins swimming up to me, and I'm walking, and this young girl comes at me. Oh, I have goosebumps as I'm telling this, walking towards me and goes to pass me. We turn and look at each other, and she goes, "Wow, you've really grown up." And as I'm looking at her, I'm looking at my younger self.
Oh, I have chills.
I have tears in my eyes. I was
Oh my
like,
God.
I woke up and I like immediately hit record on my voice memo
For
because I'm
sure.
like, I did not want to forget that moment. And there was other things going on in the dream, but that moment of her passing me and us turning and looking at each other, and I look at her and she looks at me with such familiarity, and she says to me, "Wow, you've really grown up." That solidifies right there exactly where I'm at right now, post Camino.
Oh my gosh. I have no words and so much to say. That's so beautiful. So, how are you saying yes to yourself in this season? Because you're not, we talk all the time on the podcast, in promoting my trips and coming to farm stays, whatever the thing is, even if it's just a workshop where you're going to, harvest dahlias and make something beautiful in the barn. You've been to those things.
Yeah.
That it is all about this pattern interrupt. That if you can just get away, nothing that I offer is less than 4 hours because I want it to feel like you stepped out of whatever your day to day is, whether it's fabulous or less than, and to really be present, even on a vacation. Sometimes it takes a couple of days to really drop in and be there, which is usually when you have to start packing and to go home, which is lame, which is why I only go for a month now. Um, but the pattern interrupt is so significant because we come back with fresh eyes. I'm doing it here, having everything moved out of the house and then brought back, not in the quote unquote right place, because they only, they think they remembered, but they didn't. And then the cleaners come, and then I'm like, huh, I don't think I need all this stuff. I would like some new things. I would like some different things. I would like to make this room, that room over there, and make that room, this room over here. And it's just the freshness of the return is making my house feel like it also went on vacation.
Mm, I can feel that for sure. I mean, I've had some very personal things going on in my life this year, and to come back and just be able to observe everything from this higher perspective, it's like once you know, you can't go back. And it's like I see things and I'm like, oh, that needs to move. That needs to go in a box in the basement. That needs to like this needs to change. I need new bedding, new pillows, like a new chair for the corner for meditation. Like, and I'm even talking differently. I'm more direct. I don't have time not to be fully in my integrity. People say something to me and I'm just like, here's what it is. Like, no, that's not okay with me. Or, yes, I love that. Or, I was just having and it's as simple as just having a conversation the other day, with someone who is very stressed out and sharing with them how you have to practice the pattern interrupt over and over and over again with such tremendous focus and concentration. It's not like you say to yourself, I'm right here and right now. One time. No, it's over and over and over every day, all the time until that becomes your nature.
Right. I feel like I'm talking to myself right now.
Yeah.
This is so, oh my gosh, I love you so much. I
I
always feel like that when we
love you
talk,
too.
but I'm so happy. I'm happy that you walked this with Jill so that you
Yeah.
guys had this collective up level. But I also love that our journeys have paralleled in so many ways that the same exact, we drove to the airport together. So the
Yes.
same exact time frame and this ridiculous, crazy, fabulous up level that has made us unapologetic, empowered.
Yep.
No, not, and we didn't, it's not like we felt like we were weak or just, being taken advantage all the time, but it is this clarity. I had, well, I didn't have a situation, but the movie crew had an unfavorable experience, more than one, with my neighbor who I have not had bad experiences with in over a year because I read a line in Florence Scovel Shinn's book that says, as soon as you are undisturbed by his cruelty, he will cease to be cruel. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to try that one. And I underlined it and I dated it. And every time I
Yes.
reread that book and I get to that line, I get excited because I have literally seen him 6 times in a year. And I used to see him, 6 times a day because he would, whatever. Anyway, and I have not had any experiences. Of course, I mentioned it to them because the movie people were going to be here for several weeks when I wasn't. And I just said, hey, listen, there might be something that comes up. If you could let me know, contact the authorities, whatever you need to do. I've jumped through all the hoops. I've done anyway.
Yeah.
Well, they had some very extreme
Mm,
experiences, and they didn't tell me about them until as they were leaving. And I said, oh gosh, I wish you would have told me. I would have asked you to call the police. And they said, oh, we called the police. And they took a report, and I gave my side, and he gave his, like all the things. And I just thought, oh, great. I'm going to go downtown. I ordered copies of the reports. I will hand them off to my lawyer. She will issue a cease and desist letter, and we are done. Like,
yeah.
I'm done. And I
Yeah.
didn't have to have those, like, literally scary experiences. What they
Mm,
described to me is very frightening. And
mm,
I didn't have to have that experience, but I just got to see it from the bird's eye view, just like I'm
yeah.
not going to walk by a piece of trash on my counter. I'm going to go throw it away. I'm going to pick something up. That was just something that needed to be picked up and attended to. And I am fully resourced, fully supported, totally empowered. It was such clean energy of, oh, well, this is what needs to happen. And I happen to already have a lawyer on retainer for my divorce. So hooray. And it's just making me show up for myself
Yeah.
in a way that I deserve to be showing up for myself. I am proud of me for,
I'm proud of you.
thank you. I'm proud of me for taking care of me instead of waiting for somebody just to want to do the right thing, just to want to stand up for me, just to want to say something on my behalf. And what kind of little girl energy is that? I'm I am a queen, and my queen can take care of my inner little girl, and that's what we're doing. And we're not mad, we're not retaliating, we're not trying to hurt anybody or tear anybody down. We're just saying, "Oh, no, that's not acceptable and not appropriate, and that's not going to happen anymore."
Well, and I think what you did too is you cleaned up the karma.
Totally.
You cleaned it up. It's done. And I think we're all just in a place of, I'm sorry, this behavior is no longer acceptable to me, and you can no longer be in my energy field. So you may move out. Please move out of my energy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and
And
actually, I'm
it can
not
be said
sorry.
with love. Yeah,
I'm
and it
not
can be said with
sorry.
love and all that. Yeah, and I'm not sorry about it. I'm not sorry that I said that as directly as I did. I'm not sorry that I'm speaking my truth in full integrity of myself. It's like I can't help it.
Right. Because we can't go back. We can't unsee
No.
what we've seen. And I completely get that we are in this up-leveled version of ourselves. We are breaking social contracts that we
Oh,
entered into with other people. And there is some fallout. And I have tons of grace for everyone who didn't ever bump up against my growth edges and are now meeting my queen instead
yeah.
of this little girl that just assumed that they were right and I'm in trouble. And I I just cannot go back.
Mm. Yeah, I left my the rest of my people pleaser and meeting everybody else's needs out there on the Camino. Yeah, I don't
Right.
have time for that anymore.
Right. And there are relationships that they weren't with you, so they didn't see you put that down and they didn't acknowledge and celebrate and have a party for your up level either. So we do get to allow them to have their own experience and how they navigate that. But
Hmm.
we,
It's none of my business.
nope. The things that have, okay, wait, I just heard Abraham Hicks say this yesterday and it blew my mind. Okay, the things that I can do nothing about have nothing to do with me.
Oh, totally.
Right? So
Yeah.
I only have control over how I feel, how I show up for myself and in these situations, and that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I only have time for what I actually have control over. Everything
Right.
else, got to stop pushing. Got to stop pushing against it. Oh, is this something? Have I done everything I needed to do in this right now? Yeah. Okay. Then I'm just going to allow and be patient and breathe and move on and live my
Right.
life, live my wonderful, amazing life that I get to live for as long as I'm here in this human coat, as they
Right.
say.
Right. Right. Oh my gosh. It's so good. Okay. So, how was the Camino what you expected, and how did it surprise and delight you?
So I would say at first, I was like in awe of like being there. Like
Mm,
I had read some books and read some things and walking by people as you're hiking Buen Camino and like all of a sudden now I was the one making the steps, carrying the backpack, saying the words. And it took a few days to just like take that all in. And it also took a few days for my body to be like, oh, we're doing this every day. Like um but it's so funny how quickly you get into a new routine each and every day. And that's why my friend Jill and I are so good at doing this together as we get right into it, like right into routine. We're very similar in that we're morning people. We were like in bed by 9, like all the things. I would say what delighted me, I mean, it was all of it. Like someone asked me like what my favorite town was. Like I can't pick one. I can talk about certain towns that come up into my memory right now, but there isn't one town because every single day and every step, just I was either shedding a layer or growing. And I think I was delighted at how well marked. It's so well marked. Like seriously, and it's fun to be looking out for like the next scallop shell or the yellow arrow, or is it on the ground, or is it going to be the like the cement statue? And I think one of the things that really delighted me was I met people from all over the world, like
mm,
all over the world, and some are dear friends now. But when we first started out, we kind of became we called it like our graduating class. Like with these people, we ended up being in the same towns and sometimes we were staying in the same place. And I mean, eventually you start like people will take rest days, and Jill and I didn't have any rest days, and you end up finishing at different times. But I would say the kindness of every single person I met, the I mean, we met one woman who was there the entire time we were out there and finished on the same day as us. She turned 80 while she was out
mm.
there. She was walking
Oh,
alone. She's from Ontario, badass. Like,
totally.
I mean, her name is Caroline, and just amazing. Like, so you meet these people and you see this small microcosm of the world out here on the Camino, and everybody has their reason for doing it. And but there's such kindness and love towards each other.
Right.
And it was just a great reminder that there's more good in the world than not.
Right. Oh my gosh. I love that. It's reminding me of two things. I mentioned Abraham Hicks. I
Yep.
recently went to a workshop and there's 400 people in this hotel ballroom, and the energy. is so magnetic and so positive and so beautiful. And when Esther goes into meditation to bring Abraham, like you can feel it.
Yeah.
It's just wow. Even in line for the bathroom, like everybody is bringing their highest and best. It's just this beautiful experience. And then I thought of in ways how it was similar to the pandemic, where we
Mm,
were globally, you didn't
yeah.
meet someone and say, oh, sorry, yeah, I've been just kind of out of commission for 4 weeks. My personal world shut down because of an illness. Nope, everybody knew. It was everyone started out with, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what is
Yeah.
your lifeline? Are you okay? Do you, how can
Yeah.
I be of service? So it's
Yep.
just this bond of we're all have this common goal. It is requiring so much physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual bandwidth. And I'm not looking to you to carry my bag. Like
Yeah.
I'm doing it next to you, with you, a little bit ahead, a little bit
Yeah.
behind, but
Yeah.
we are all doing this same thing that is good, that is personal. Like you said, everybody is there for their own reason. And that commitment
Mm,
is,
yeah.
it's intense. I mean, I've wanted to do this walk ever since I heard about it. And just because I love to walk and although I move my body all day working on the farm, I would not consider myself an athletic person. I I can move, I'm strong, I'm flexible, but I am not skilled in a sport. Like I'm not a tennis player or a golfer or any softball, whatever. I'm certainly not a runner. I run errands. So, like you are a runner. So, doing something like that has always appealed to me because I think well, I could walk. I could walk every day. That sounds amazing. But there wasn't necessarily an event or a spiritual catalyst that pulled me there. But as I've reflected, knowing every day, checking your stories while I was in France and you were in Spain, and looking at your affirmations and making them my own on so many
Mm,
days and seeing, wow, how am I seeing that everything is always working out for me? How am
yeah.
I seeing that I bring good with every step? How am I seeing these things? And it's making me even more excited to do this walk. I'm going to do a little bit of a different version um, because also that's how I roll. This one is for people who like better food and better accommodations. Might we offer you the Italian route? So, I mean, I didn't say like that's what the company says, that's in their
Yeah.
marketing. So, I'm all about walking all day long during white truffle season in Tuscany. So that's how I'm going to do it.
Definitely wasn't doing that.
I know, but I love that. And I love that, like, well, your Camino is better than my Camino. It's like, it's just so not like that.
Well, that's the other thing when you're out there is you have people doing the original Camino Frances, which starts in St. John in France. You have people who start in Lyon and maybe because they've already walked the first part and they can't take the whole. There's all different ways to do the Camino, and you are open and respectful to everybody's version. No,
Right.
there is no right way to do the Camino. It's even the busiest week was the final week when people just start walking in Saria to Santiago, and all of a sudden the trails and the where you're walking becomes very crowded. That calls in another level of adaptability and flexibility. And ooh, this is triggering me. What do I need to heal here? Every experience, every even the joy and even like some of the other emotions like frustration or this is, oh, I started in St. John and they're just starting here. Like, okay, what is that? There's something in me that needs to heal. And thank you for this opportunity and this situation to allow me to heal it. I mean, that's what this whole thing was about for me.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, you have to be, that's life.
Right. Those awarenesses. I mean,
And even
I,
Abraham says that who cares what anybody else is doing? All that
right.
matters is you feel good. When you don't feel good, you are not allowing well-being to come into your life.
It's
Is
true.
that how you want to live? Do you want
It's
to create
true.
that karma? No.
No, thank you. And you don't have to be on day 32 of your Camino walk to be triggered by somebody else's actions.
No.
I mean,
No.
just not being in my house and then coming back. And I have a very unhealthy attachment to the items in my kitchen. That was my awareness. So we get these opportunities all the time to, okay, if I am not feeling good, if well being is not my overall general feeling, it's because my inner being has a different opinion than I do about whatever my focus of attention is on. And that is an opportunity to clean it up.
Right. So that you can go back to well-being. You get
Yes.
it up and out. You don't sit in it. You don't dwell in it. You let the healing come up and out, and then you move on. That's
Right.
how healing really happens. But you have to be willing. You have to be willing to sit with it. And when you're on the Camino, there's nowhere else to go.
Right. And sitting with it can be tricky, right? Because we can, if we sit with it and then we start talking to people about it, at least on the Camino, you're not talking to anyone. But in for the listener who is not on the Camino listening to this
Right.
podcast, if you are walking the Camino listening to this podcast, please let us know.
Yes.
But sometimes we sit in it or we think, oh, I really need to figure out what this is so I can heal it so that I can, and then we're talking to people and then they're validating what's
That's the mind.
happening totally. And then we're
Intellect's getting
just,
involved.
yes. And then we're not just sitting in it, we're stirring the pot, we're making it. And I think in healing, there's a willingness there's a willingness to acknowledge it and then a willingness to let it, to release it.
And the more you do it, you'll be able to know when your mind, like, let's just talk about crying, because I, I
Let's.
do that and I did it a few times on the Camino. And you'll be, the more you do it, you'll be able to tell when you're crying and you're actually done with crying and the tears,
Mm,
but the mind tries to take you back to some drama to keep it going. But that takes like
right.
practice and awareness in sitting in stillness, in pattern interrupts, all of those things that allows you to see, oh, wait a minute. Nice try, mind and ego, but I'm done with that. So I'm going to move on now because the mind wants to know, why am I crying? When really it's just, oh, thank you for this situation, for allowing healing to happen.
Mhm.
It's really simple.
Right? It's amazing. Yes. And you know this about me, and my listeners certainly know this about me that tears come quickly if something is important to me. And usually when I'm speaking something important that is most times an encouragement to somebody else or a defending of my little girl
Mm,
inside like that because that feels important to me.
yep,
And I had a beautiful opportunity to be in conversation with Terry Cole. She wrote
yep.
Boundary
Boundary
Boss.
boss. Yeah.
And
She came in and led some different things when I was in meditation teacher training with David G. And because she took his teacher training too.
oh,
Yeah.
amazing. She's
Yeah.
really good friends with Gina DeVee. So one of
Yep.
our retreats, they were hanging out in Cabo before, and then she came to our session. And
Oh, that's cool.
it was cool. It was so funny, actually, just as a side note, to watch her while she was talking, because
Mm.
I'm just accustomed to hearing her voice in my ears, but not to see words fall out of
Yes.
her
Yeah.
face. Like, it's
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
weird. You
Yeah.
sound just like Terry Cole, because she has that sultry, just cool
Yes.
voice. Oh my gosh, she's so rad. But she was telling me that those emotion to having emotions so close to the surface is an indicator of not allowing myself to feel, whether I don't feel safe or I don't feel considered, or but it but it's a trauma response. She said it, of course, more eloquently and from a background and education
Yeah.
of all of these beautiful things. But I've been mindful of that since she told me, and it
Mhm.
was fascinating because in probably the following 3 weeks after that conversation, I didn't cry. And I didn't
Mm.
cry like during a Gina DeVee retreat, which that was not normal for me because I'm like, oh my God. So it really was impactful
Yep.
what's behind that. And I think that just like you saying, your mind is going to those practice things. Why are we crying? Or let's stay here because this
Yep.
hurts. And this
Yep.
is a place where we get validation and we feel seen because, oh gosh, we got to get her to stop crying. Let's just do what she wants, or, whatever happens to
Mm.
in our world around us. And that's practiced. And in investigating these things that we're ready to release, that we can go to those places and comfort ourselves in, I see you, I see how this has been a safety measure for you for longer than we even know why it's
Mm.
happening, but we're going to set that down and we're going to walk out of this room and we're going to be okay. And
Mm.
we have more tools now, and we don't have to practice the things that we've always done just because we've always done them.
Yeah. It's that awareness.
Mhm.
And you're more awake now.
Yeah,
And I'm more awake now. And the more awake we are, the more we can't go back to those old patterns. They don't feel
right.
good. They don't feel right. And it's also about, I can be really good at living in this like enlightened spiritual level. And my work here is to remember it's okay to be human and
Yes.
get mad and cry and be upset and be pissed and all those things. They need to come up and out so you can keep growing and
Right.
keep pushing past your edges and keep up leveling.
Right.
That's what this is all about here, is that we are here our souls came here for a reason. Our job is to continually heal, to move forward, to know what that is. And the
Yes.
more we make choices and decisions from our heart and less from our mind, the heart guides, the mind follows, the more we can be on that path. You don't have to know every single thing you need to do in the next 10 years.
Right.
You can have an idea, you can have the goals. Oh, I want to do this. Or things come through to you, like, oh, like I am very into learning more about the Camino Portuguese that starts in either Lisbon or
Mm,
Porto. Not to do tomorrow, but hey, I think I might want to get along the coast. Oh, that's cool. I'm just gonna note it.
right.
I don't have to plan it. I don't have to like, hey, that might be a cool thing. But I don't have to know every step until I get to that because maybe it will become a situation. Oh, actually, it wasn't the Camino Portuguese, it was something else.
Right.
But it's just allowing those things to come through to you.
Right. And all of those cooperative components are drawn to us when we have a willingness, which we do, which our listeners do. We know what we want. And we believe that we'll feel better in the having of those things, right? So doing the Camino again, doing the Camino with a different view, doing the Camino with whatever elements about that route that you think are there. For me, doing them with this discovery of, ooh, what is my meal? Because I'll walk, that is something that I'll walk for. I'll stand in line for food. So I will walk for food, not for an iPhone, not for a concert, but for food, yes. And those things that are drawing me there, but I don't, like you said, I don't have to know. I just want to think about what is it about that. It sounds exciting. It sounds like it feels like a beautiful way to spend the day and a beautiful way to spend the end of that day. I loved
Mm,
seeing your posts, your stories every night of your 2 glasses of wine for you and Jill. And I was like, I would walk for wine also. Like it just,
totally. It
you
was the
know,
best. It was the best.
right. So those feelings, it's I want to feel free. I want to feel strong in my body. I want to feel comfortable at night. I want to feel well fed and satisfied. I want to have all of these experiences at a good level. I want to have walked far enough that I'm not injured. I want to sleep well enough that I'm not tired. I want the temperature of my shower to be not too cold and not too hot. I want the and just enough food. All of these things, but I don't have to say it's this particular route and that's the only thing that's going to get me those things. So when we are focusing on that feeling of what we want, of where we're going, of what feels good, of what's no longer serving us, we can keep on that trajectory without feeling like, ooh, I can only be in the feeling I'm having right now after I get off a plane in France, or for you after I'm doing another Camino. No, we get to recreate it all the time. We know the ingredients.
Yep.
Travel is a part of it. And
Yep.
planning a trip feels like going on a trip to me. So as long as I
Totally.
know I'm going back, I'm good to come home.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. All of that. I will tell you, because you were talking about in your body feeling good, highly recommend Squirrel's nut butter. Jill and I put it on our feet every morning, not one blister.
That's
500
amazing.
miles, not one blister.
That's what I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you about like the nitty gritty. So this is squirrel's nut butter, and I'm assuming it's not a nut butter.
No, it's
Okay.
so it was
Because
created, it was created by I forget his name, but it was for their daughter because she was having skin issues and then and they needed something, other things weren't working, they were trying to put her on medication, so they made something and it worked, and then they started noticing like, oh, this also works for chafing and blisters on your feet and all this different stuff. And I knew of it and Jill knew of it because we're from the ultra world and marathon running, so we brought it with us, and every like it's part of our routine. Okay, now it's time to put on our socks, let's get the squirrel's nut butter, lubing up the feet every day, and we every day would be like, yep, still good.
amazing.
Yeah,
And how many pairs did you wear hiking boots? Did you wear running shoes? What did you do?
that's a great question. So I took Hoka hiking shoes and my Hoka Speedgoat threes, which are more trail runners.
Okay.
I we started out wearing our hiking boots the first day, and then we were both like, no.
Too
And we
heavy?
switched over. It wasn't, mine were light. It was that my feet on my right side, because the shoe was higher on my ankle, it just was like, I'm like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
And I'm so used to being on trails and my speed goats that I pretty much wore those the rest of the time. And Jill wore
Okay.
her Hokas as well. She has different ones. And actually, she came in with these Hokas that already had tons of miles, and they made it through the Camino. And then we left them in Santiago.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
So that's great to know though. So you brought 2 pair of shoes, but you only wore one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there were many things that probably were in my suitcase that didn't need to be. And now that, you have that first time through, right? I
Right.
mean, and I even like pared down what I brought. Here's a funny story. We flew through Charles de Gaulle to Biarritz, and we stayed Biarritz, highly recommend. Delightful, beautiful, on the coast. We stayed in this beautiful hotel. It was magnificent. The town was magnificent, and our luggage didn't come
Ugh.
for 24 hours.
Oh my gosh.
So we got to Biarritz and we were staying there for the night. The lovely concierge at the hotel worked tirelessly, went the next morning, drove to the airport and picked up our bags and brought them to us. And we had
Oh,
them before we got on the
wonderful.
train for St. John
Oh
from
my
Biarritz.
gosh.
So, but
Wonderful.
the whole time, this is where these pattern erupts. Like normally, if you don't practice it, you'd be like, oh my God, if it doesn't come. And then you have
Right.
all the stress and you're wasting so much energy. And I just kept saying, they're coming.
Right.
We see where they are. The they're coming. I
Right.
visualized them being downstairs the next morning. I visualized that we would open them. And then for me, the zipper one little part of my zipper on my luggage broke. So when it was zipped up, I couldn't unzip it.
Oh,
So I had this moment when we got to St. John where I had to just, okay, breathe and call in my guides and be like, at a loss with this luggage thing. Like, what are you
right.
trying? So I'm like, okay, patience. And Jill had this tool, and I just pushed it against it with every ounce of strength, and it opened. So for
Okay.
the rest of the trip, I only zipped it up to this little point. And there was always this little space that was unzipped. Like, it
All
was
right.
crazy.
Oh
It
my
was
gosh.
crazy.
And you used the tour group that or
Camino
the
ways.
company that they took your luggage that wasn't zipped up all the way.
Yeah. Every day we would bring our luggage down to the front desk by 8 a.m. And every day we would get to our new place by walking and it would be there.
Amazing.
Every single day it was there.
I
And
love
some
that.
days we saw them picking it up. Um, it was amazing. Yeah.
That's phenomenal. So what did you carry with you during the day?
So I used my Osprey Tempest. For me, that worked really well. I have a short torso and a bigger pack, like was just uncomfortable. I didn't have like my neck couldn't move. Loved it. And every day we always had rain gear. The mornings got a little cooler. Sometimes I would have a hat and my gloves in there. I always had my Camino book that we used every day, just in case we needed to refer to it for some reason, because it gave like every night we read about the next day. So in case we needed to just look at something, or I just didn't want this to get lost, so I carried
Sure.
it with me. Carried a charger for my phone, sunscreen, my mala beads, and a crystal.
Water.
Always water. I had a hydration bladder. Highly recommend using hydration bladder. One thing that I did note that it really played to Jill's and my strengths that we had done ultras
Yes.
because we knew to carry like a hydration bladder. So it's in the backpack. The thing comes around, taking sips.
Right.
Whereas other people were carrying actual bottles of water or like they're 32-ounce heavy. Yeah, so I highly recommend. And I'm actually going to do a coffee chat about the Camino too, in
Good.
the next couple weeks because I've had tons of people wanting to know about it and
Please
questions.
create a PDF with links
Yep,
and all of those things. Set up
I
your
will do
own
that.
Amazon shop so you can get
Yep,
affiliate links on all that.
totally. Yep, yeah. So join my email list. That will be at the end of
Yes.
this.
Perfect.
And some snacks. Like I always had a couple bars or chips. I love chips when I'm out there, like because they're salty. And actually, Spain has awesome chips.
They have
For
such
anybody
good
that's there.
potato chips, which
Oh,
let's
so good.
also remind people, if we didn't talk about this in the last episode,
Yep.
that you're vegan.
Mm,
So that's
yes.
really important because a lot of people think, oh, I can't go on this trip or it's going to be a nightmare. So
No.
speak to that as well while we're on the potato chip.
Yeah. So, yes, I am vegan, and it was really important for me to maintain that throughout the trip. And I will tell you that for breakfast, I ate a lot of bread and jam, and I have no problem that I don't want to eat any bread and jam right now or have a macro bar right now because I had so many. I had days where the Camino always provides. So if I had a moment where I I would be like, Camino, I just really need some food. I need food. I need like good vegan food. And we get to a town and we'd find this place and they had homemade lentil soup.
Oh,
Or they would just have something that I could eat. I ate a lot of bananas. Some places had kind bars, so I could at least mix it up a little bit. Um, I found some vegan chocolate. We had vegan chocolate, which came in handy on one day where and I'll share that story in a moment, but we
okay.
really needed it. And most places that we stayed, a lot of the places we stayed that were in the smaller towns, they would have dinner at a certain time.
Oh, nice.
I will tell you, I'm not someone that is meant to eat dinner at 7, 8 o'clock at night. That was
Right.
tough some days, but they would, I would just tell them, yo soy vegana, and they would make me food. And there were a couple places where they made the most magnificent avocado salad and then
Mm.
made me vegan pesto on homemade pasta.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
please.
And then there were places where I just had to adapt and it was like a jar of just veggies, like, with the square carrots. And you just had to, if there's anything these kind of trips teach me, and I will say, glad I wasn't staying in hostels and albergues because a lot of people were
Anyway,
like trying to get
for
to.
no reason
Yeah,
that I'm
no,
not going to
that's
stay in
not
a
my people.
hostel.
Some people were like, they were like, but that's the fun of it. I'm like, maybe for you. I don't need that. I don't
No,
need that part of it.
apparently I am
I
no
liked,
fun.
yeah, well, but a lot of these people had to walk longer if the places were booked up or if they stressed trying to get a reservation at one. And Jill and I were like, thank God we just have our places and we showed up every time. And
Yep.
honestly, it was like perfection. But anyway, yes, I was able to maintain being vegan, and it was like things would just show up when I would ask. I'd be like, I need this and I need a bathroom. And I will tell you, as someone who's done ultras, you find places to pee, but it was nice when you found a bathroom. And the nice thing there is that they all want to help the pilgrims walking. No, you
Mm,
could just walk in and use the bathroom, walk out. They don't care that you're not buying
nice.
anything. Like it was just, they're kind. They're like, we want to help you. What do you need? And I remember there's this one time where I thought we were going to be able to get pizza and they had vegan pizza, but they were pre-made. And I went over to this place to get it. And she was like, no, we only have this and we're trying to communicate in Spanish. I remember I just start crying. And she felt so bad. She was like trying to show me on the menu, but there's this and this. And I'm like, and I was like, I don't want any more French fries
Right.
or mixed salad. I'm like done with the mixed salad and French. Like it was one of those moments like where I'm like, it's okay. This is healing. This situation's just helping me out
Right.
because I would just be hungry. Or there was this one time where towards the beginning, Jill and I were sitting near a rock and I thought I bought this like just this little baguette of bread, but I bit into it and it was meat. And so I had to spit it out. And I just started to cry because I was tired and it was hot. And Jill, Jill goes, I have pistachios. And it was just that like, okay, it made everything better. Like it was just like you would figure it out. So yeah, I was able to stay vegan, which was awesome.
That is
People were
amazing.
fascinated. They were fascinated with how I was doing it, and they were convinced I was going to be like emaciated by the time I came back. And I did lose weight, but it was because I was just fitter because I walked 500 miles.
As one does.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
definitely
like,
ate.
it's as if you were doing two pilgrimages in keeping what was important to you
Yeah.
and doing this thing that's just equally hard for everybody, challenging. So you said you're a morning person. What time did you typically leave or start the day? And then what time did you finish? And what was your longest day?
So we got into a routine. There were very few days where we I had to get up before this, but I would get up at 6. I would meditate. I meditated every single day, sometimes twice when we were in our room later and just relaxing and resting. I would get up, meditate. I would go in the bathroom and do my morning stuff, like wash my face. Then Jill would get up and then she'd do her thing. We would get dressed, pack the bag. Like we got it down to a science of like what we needed to take out of our bag when we got there, what we needed, and then we just easily packed up, brought it down, ate breakfast. Our whole day was often around, well, when are they going to start serving breakfast?
Sure.
It was anywhere from 7 to 8:30. So, which was we had to just abide by well, we
Right.
were always first. Like there was no coffee in our room, so we were like, "When's breakfast?" And we'd be like, "Yes, it was." I drank a lot of black coffee, but then there'd be
Sure.
a lot of places that had soy milk, or we'd find a grocery store where we could carry these little oat milks or almond milks, and we'd pull them out at a cafe we stopped at along the walk. That's the funnest thing about this is you stop along the way. You're not in a race trying,
Right.
and we always got to the next town like before we could even check in. Like, so it was not a big deal. So we left usually most days we were leaving by 7:45 to 8:15,
Okay.
unless breakfast was until 8:30. Then we would go quickly breakfast and get on the road.
And then how long were your days?
Usually if we had 13 or less, we would probably get to the town around 1.
Okay.
And that's with stopping for coffee and sometimes
Sure.
stopping to eat. And then on the longer days, probably we had probably 5 long days, and we would get there because on those days we would definitely stop and eat. We would get there probably around anywhere from 2:30 to 3:30. And one
Oh,
day we got there at
nice.
4 because the day we needed chocolate. It was towards the end. We were walking to Arzua and we thought we had 17 miles. And we get to this point where we realize we have another 5K on top
Oh,
of the 17 miles. So we're standing there and Jill's like, "How you doing, Liz?" I'm like, just give me a moment to accept that I have to walk another 5K." She goes, "I think this calls for chocolate."
I
I
love
said,
her.
"Yes, bring out the chocolates."
Or gin. Do you have gin in there? I'll take
No,
a
we didn't
gin
have
and a
gin, but I'll
chocolate,
tell you
please.
what. And it was super hilly. Like I
Mm.
swear to you, it was like, so we get to Arzua and we have to be driven to our place because they'll come get us because some places we had to stay outside to get the accommodations we paid for. But it ended up being this place that had been in the family since 1532. It was the most magnificent
Oh,
place. And we got to go sit in the library and we got a bottle of wine. It made everything all better. But
brilliant. I'll walk 5K for that.
yeah, yeah. When we were done, I was like, thank the Lord.
Right.
Like, oh, that was a long
Another
day.
reason to not stay in a hostel.
Yeah. I can't imagine looking for a hostel
Every single
after.
day?
No, no,
Ugh.
thanks. Mm-mm.
And then the prize is a hostel? Like, no, thank you.
No. Sleeping in a room with other people? No.
Mm-mm.
And so many people would be like out early because of the snoring. They just couldn't take it. I'm like, yeah, I'm not, I'm not
Yeah.
available.
Totally not. I'm only available for what delights me, and this
Absolutely.
does not.
Oh.
No. And I love already knowing that
Mm.
before, because I'm sure, well, I'm not sure. I don't know if Camino Ways takes on new clients after they've already started and say, I would like to upgrade my package, please, to having a hotel starting today.
That's a tough one. Well, some of the people too, they would stay in albergues for so long and then they'd give themselves a hotel in a town just to have their own bathroom, their own room, and get some good sleep. I can't imagine not.
No.
And there were nights where it was hard to sleep, but I can't imagine. And there was weather. We walked in some pouring rain.
Mm.
The very last day, especially, we walked literally the entire 10 miles to Santiago in laugh out loud torrential downpour.
I mean, what are you going to do? like, I'm not taking the
I
extra
laughed and
day
people,
at
I'd
this
ask people,
point.
I'd be like, Buen Camino, and I'd be laughing. And they were like, I'm like, dude, you gotta laugh, man.
What are we?
Like,
Well, they only started 2 days ago because they
yeah,
did. That's why they're like,
I
this
had,
sucks.
I had 32 days to come to that.
Right. Oh, I thought I was just crying. Is it raining? Okay.
I'm like, well, things are being cleansed. Thank you, Mother Nature.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. Is there anything that you wish you brought with you that you didn't?
No,
Oh,
I wore the same outfit every day. I could have left things at home. I literally wore the same shorts, shirt, sun shirt, buff. Yeah.
amazing. So you just like cleaned it up in the sink.
We either
It's,
washed it, yeah, we either
yeah,
washed it or we had many place, not many, but we would like right when we needed it, we'd have a place that did laundry and dried it. Some
brilliant.
places just washed it, but they had a place to dry it and it was nice enough out.
Yep.
We had a situation where about 2 or 3 days, 2 days before we were finishing, we also walked into torrential downpour and the place didn't have it, but I think I posted it on my stories. All our stuff was hanging by the window. It was
Yes.
so soaked. It was like
Well, what are you gonna
literally my
do?
shorts were like falling off me practically. They were so wet. Like you're
Right.
like, oh my God, I've got to get out of this wet clothes. So we luckily we had a big enough room. We're like, okay, this is the dedicated area for taking off said wet clothes.
Yes.
Like there was all these things you just had to work with.
Right. Would you suggest that time frame based on the weather that you experienced?
I would say yes, because there's this part of it called the Meseta, and you walk through it for 9 days, and it's a pretty flat, out in the open space. And I would say that would be tough in the summer, like at the height of it being really, really warm. And we walked it when it was like 70s and beautiful. Actually, I got a good tan, but then you get past that and the weather changes, and I'm like, I'm gonna lose my tan. Like, that's why I'm here.
That's right.
But I highly recommend the fall. And there were many people around my age doing it. There were a bunch of young kids, like they had just graduated college and they were out there.
Cute.
And then you have people older than me or around my age or a little younger. And so it was a really good group of people just out there doing it. And if anybody has the questions like, how did I take 6 weeks out of my life? Well, I didn't do it alone. Jill and I both had different challenges with it. Jill works for her, we both work for ourselves. Jill is a therapist and had to make sure everything was okay with her clients. But we planned this like February, it started February 2023.
Right.
So it wasn't like we just went into this blind. Then we had
Right.
to get people on board to help us with animals, our families and stuff. And I do have the privilege of being able to do this. I want to say that. But also, you can do anything you put your mind to, and there's always
Agreed.
a way. And there are people out there doing it for 6 weeks that you find a way. But there's also other ways. Like you could do just the last week. You could just do the first 2 weeks and then fly from Lyon to home. You don't have to do it all at the same time, but I remember hearing people talk about you don't have to do it all at the same time, where the type of person I am, that was never even a thought of mine,
Hmm.
not doing 500 miles. No, I gotta, for me,
Right.
do start to finish.
Right. Right. And freedom is a decision away.
Yeah.
So if this is something that you want to do, you'll figure it out, you'll make a way, or you could do it even easier and ask God, how would you have me do this? How would you?
You make a choice that you want to do it. That's the
Right.
desire, and you put it out into the universe.
Yes.
It doesn't mean you're doing it tomorrow.
Right.
Like I wrote an email the other day to my list where I said, you have the big goal. But then there's all these tiny little steps below. So what's one tiny step?
That's right.
Oh, maybe I look at Camino Ways and I see what I could do through them. And oh, I
Hmm.
can make payments. Oh,
Hmm.
because they allow payments. But you
Brilliant.
could take forever. Like, say
Right.
I mean, like I said, we started this in February 2023. Yeah.
Yes.
Ask questions, research.
The yes unlocks the how.
Yeah. And the more presence you are, you can see. the
That's right.
breadcrumb the universe is putting in front of you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay. I could obviously talk to you all day long.
I know there's so much I haven't said.
I know. And we need drinks to
Yes,
say all the
yes,
things. And thankfully, you're
yes,
right down the street. So we can do
yes.
both of
I
those
know. And now you're
things.
back in the house. I'm so excited to come see you.
Yay. Yes. Please come. But tell everyone where they can find and follow you, where they can get that amazing list that you're going to create, all of those good things.
Okay, so I have a website, lizmchutcheon.com. The best way to stay in touch with me is join my email list, which I'll give to you, Wendy, when you post this.
Mhm.
A way for them to do that. And that way you can stay up to date. I'm always sharing wisdom. I'll be sharing that. I'm going to have a coffee chat where people can ask me questions. Come to the coffee chat and you can ask me about the Camino and how I do what I do. And also on Instagram. I love Instagram. It's my favorite platform.
Perfect. Well, yes, we will link everything down in the show notes, but thank you so much. I love that we were able to capture just a few days before you left and now just a few days since you've been home. It's brilliant. I'm so excited
Mm.
for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Wendy. You have no idea how excited I was. I love talking about this, so thank you.
It's my greatest pleasure. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.